So you have to know that I am very familiar with airports and traveling. Even though we were working class growing up. My dad was this very interesting mix. He came from working class and no money, but he was in the army and he had lived overseas, and so he knew intuitively that exposing his kids, me and my two sisters, to the world, international travel, was a very important thing. And even to this day, when I look back on what my best training has been in life, it was absolutely living overseas, traveling overseas, going overseas at a young age and as a teenager and so on in their 20s. So I'm really familiar with the stress that can happen in an airport, in a third world airport. And I have lots of stories, given that I've traveled to about 50 countries and lived in five outside the US. So the United Airline thing that went on was really interesting. And I was traveling with my two kids, a week ago. And so there's three of us, right? So three tickets, three kids, two carry-ons. And I go up to the ticket counter and the woman says, "You can't bring that bag on." I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "It's too big." I'm like, she's like, "See if it fits in that thing over there. That little square thing they have." And so I take it and I squish it in. It it fits, but I just have to, wiggle it a little bit to get in. And she said, "Yeah, that's too big. You can't use it." I said, I just fit it in the thing." She goes, "Yeah, but you pushed it in." I was like, "So it doesn't say you can't push it in, and I've got three tickets and two bags." And she's like, "Nope, policy says it's too big. It's too big." It's like, it just fit. Now here's the thing. I'm with my two kids. I'm in the airport. Airports are stressful, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, what's the policy here? If you squish it in, it doesn't work. But guys, this is an example, and there's a point here, and this is the point. It's one of the points I want you to hear. There's the policy, and then there's common sense, right? So the woman at the ticket counter, I don't know anything about her. She was having a bad day. She was having a good day. The common sense would be, hey, here's a dad, two kids, go ahead. Go ahead on. Of course it fit. You squished it in. There's nothing. Like, common sense says, hey, I hear you. Go ahead. But she didn't do common sense. She did some sort of policy, right? This was on Delta Airlines. There was a policy she was following. She wasn't using common sense. And I think what gets me triggered a lot, and if you hear me rant, I don't think of it a rant. I think of it as just being very skeptical, though some would call it a rant. When I get mad, it's because it's like there's common sense, and then there's like a business model or there's a policy. And so I can see why people get stressed out in I was almost going to say hospitals. They get stressed out in hospitals, in airports, because the people in them, they kind of forget about common sense. I mean, not all of them, of course. I've been on hundreds of flights where common sense clearly overruled policy. But it's so interesting how common sense rarely shows up in the stock market. And I point this out because it's hard to see common sense when you're under stress. And the place people usually go to invest their money is either a big box advisor, which is all policy, or they go to a story-based pick of the month newsletter, which they know about your brain. And so I bring this up because it's hard sometimes to see common sense. And one of the things I often talk about is what's the easiest thing to see is a price chart. And a price chart, guys, does not go up. I'm not saying like to you guys, like, now guys, listen to me now, here's a lesson. But I'm talking to others that a price chart doesn't go up unless money's flowing into it. You gotta have money flowing into that actual ticker symbol for that thing to go up. Not news, not hype, not PE ratio. Money actually has to be flowing into it. Whether it should be or shouldn't be, if it is flowing into it, net, right, flowing in, flowing out, then that thing is absolutely going to go up. And it's just a matter of time, minutes, seconds for it to happen. Like, it's common sense when you think of it that way. And the other day, this wasn't a prospective client or a client, but someone someone in my field, another registered investment advisor, they talked about how do you handle model portfolio theory, right? And modern portfolio theory, which it's funny, came out in 1952, guys. Modern portfolio theory from Markowitz came out in 1952, not sounding too modern now. It says, well, how do you deal with modern portfolio theory, which basically says you can't beat the market. And then he also brought up the efficient market hypothesis, which came out in 1970. And that says basically the same thing. You can't beat the market, right? So you have these two theories that run policy of this trillion-dollar industry, the big box industry, right? And policy says modern portfolio theory, I almost said theory, 1952, and efficient market hypothesis, 1970. And they run their policy off these things. Guys, modern portfolio theory, that's hard for me to say, and efficient market hypothesis didn't help anyone in 1974 to 1975 when the market fell 50%. I don't think it helped anyone in 1987 when the market fell. That day it fell 23%. Okay, that correction was 35%. Or the dot-com crash, if you don't like the word crash, correction, 49%, or the global financial crisis, 58% correction. I didn't see modern portfolio theory helping anyone. I didn't see the efficient market hypothesis, which came out in 1970, helping anyone. And so this is kind of the policy versus common sense. Like, guys, it didn't help me the last time the market cratered, and that things from 1952 and 1970. And the picture on the screen is the S&P 500 with dividends reinvested. And this screen here, let me get one more screen. It's not working. This is the 30-year U.S. Treasury price. And, it's much more jagged as the other one was, but it's kind of showing you, hey, that's still going higher. The point is, common sense is hard to see, especially when you are being pounded with policy. And a lot of times policy is just stupid. It's written by people who don't live in the world. And that's why United got in trouble, because they went policy over common sense. And that's why when I was getting on the plane with my two kids with two bags, I was just like, common sense is not going to win today. And I checked the bag, but I was just like, that's a good common sense point. Common sense is hard to see if you don't know about price charts, because price charts tell you, you know what, still going up. You know what, S&P still going up. Trump administration, not Trump administration, Marie Le Pen, Mario Draghi, Janet Yellen, fill in the blank, fill in Harry Dent saying real estate's going to fall 35%. It's that common sense. It's that common sense. And here's the thing. The story-based pick in the newsletter industry knows about this. And you know what they know most? They know why we won World War II. Do you know why we won World War II? I will tell you. There's many reasons, but I'm going to tell you one of the reasons. The Allied side, that's the U.S. side and all of their players, had 38 gallons of fuel compared to the Nazis, which had 1 gallon of fuel. So we had more fuel. And I'm not using fuel as a metaphor. I'm actually meaning like fuel, petrol, gas, diesel. We had more fuel than them, so it was just a matter of time before we won. I bring this up because the story-based pick of the month newsletter, they've got the 38 gallons and you've got the 1 gallon. They are pounding your inbox, not even with stock picks, but with new services, right? Just look at Porter Stansberry's company, Stansberry & Associates, right? I think they have like 27 investment services, 5 of which came out in the last 5 months. They have more fuel than you. They're going to win because they're just going to keep pounding your brain. And so you have to go back to common sense. How do you do that, RC? Look at the price charts. Look at the price charts. So what's the takeaway? Don't travel with 2 carry-on bags unless you're really ready to make sure that they can fit in that middle metal thing. So what is the takeaway? The takeaway is follow the money. How do you follow the money? You look at the price charts. Now, I'm staying really high level here, guys. There's lots of nuances, but the general thing is those hundreds of millions of people that are voting with their money in the market, that's the answer. It's clear. It's straightforward. It's ruthlessly simple. Consciously, you know exactly that works. Unconsciously, we want things to be complex and complicated. I get that. Guys, follow the money, not the news, not the hype, and not the business model. The business model either being the story-based pick of the month newsletter industry. Guys, they're gonna win. They're gonna shut down your prefrontal lobes. They have 38 gallons of fuel. You only have one. That 1 gallon of fuel, by the way, is your attention span until you break down and go, I'll just get the sparkly thing. Follow the money. Follow the money. And that means price charts. Hey guys, this is just another step in helping you protect your portfolio and your future. Until next time, this is RC Peck. Thanks so much, guys, for being in my world. All is good. Again, go back to those 2 price charts I showed you today. Quite honestly, there is not a lot to talk about in the news when it comes to investing, but I just have to share one thing with you. There was a tweet or a text, or it was one of those things, maybe an Instagram, and I'm not kidding, it said, the Dow fell 100 points on Tuesday. The Dow. So the Dow Jones, just in reference, is like a 20,000 point index. And they were mentioning how horrific the 100 point fall was on Tuesday. And I'm like, this is absolutely ridiculous. So, right, 100 point fall in a 20,000 point index is a 0.5%. And they were building a case around why the market's about to collapse. Now, just so you know, guys, I have no idea what's about to happen to the market. I do know what's going on with the price charts. But the point is, our brains are susceptible to stories and are susceptible to being scared. So my homework assignment for the weekend for you is just notice how many times you're getting hit. Right? They have 38 gallons of fuel. We only have 1. How many times you're getting hit with something really bad's about to happen? Look at the price charts, guys. They'll set you free. Thank you so much, guys. You take care.